Yeah.
Over. Oh,
Yeah. I just want to thank our sponsors and everybody for coming. Our sponsors is Tres Dulce. They are an ice cream and I guess they sell the ice stuff now too, I noticed. It's called Italian Ice. And then we also have the Bavarian Inn and Bakery and Deli. And Rob, I'm gonna, since you've already been going, I'm gonna let you just keep going.
okay. Well, I see there's someone that has an iPhone. Would they be able to let me know their name? I have Erlene, I have Tracy, I have Amy, I have Courtney, and I have an
Anas-
iPhone.
Anastasia Jackson. I'm actually walking into my office. I'm going to switch over to the desktop in a few.
Oh, no, no problem. I didn't want to leave you out. That's
Uh,
all. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And well, my name is Robert Signo, and what I thought today was I'd introduce myself and then I'd ask you guys to introduce yourselves. And also, I want you to think about what is it that you want to get out of this hour? Um, because my background, I have had leadership positions for the state, for private industry, corporations, nonprofits, higher ed, uh, secondary ed. I was a high school principal in Milford for 10 years. Then I went on to work at MBNA America, where I was a senior vice president. I was one of the founders of the MBNA Education Foundation. And prior to that, I worked in customer satisfaction. Then I went on to lead statewide education reform called Vision 2015. And then I've been at Wilmington University for the last 12 years. And I've had 5 positions there. I started as a faculty member, then I was director of the doctoral program in business, then I was dean of the College of Business, then I was assistant vice president of academic affairs, and now I'm assistant vice president of partnerships and community affairs. And I had the pleasure of being with Dina Vendetti. She and I were classmates at Wilmington University in our doctoral program, and we're still friends and close. And um, she asked me if I would want to talk about leadership over coffee, and I said I'd love to. And so what I hope to share with you is what you want, because I could probably talk for about 8 hours, and we don't have 8 hours, and I'm not going to talk. I want to hear from you. So, Courtney, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, your job, your position, and what you hope to gain today?
Okay, sure. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Courtney Stewart. I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Management and Budget. So I work in state government. And what I hope to get out from this morning is that I'm currently in a leadership position,
Mm-hmm.
and I always love sending my staff to leadership training.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't ever take the time to send myself. So I happen to have an hour. I'm just being honest, and I happen to have an hour on my schedule available. And my kids have a 2-hour delay, so I said I can jump on this morning and learn and get some good insights.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to lean on you too, because the other thing that we want to get to today is the idea of in leadership, we all experience challenges. What are the best ways to deal with it? We all have challenges. That's something that one of the things you got to get over when you're a leader is that you're not alone, that everyone in your position is going through the same things, but nobody's admitting it. So this is an opportunity to kind of be in Las Vegas here and share things and everyone else kind of work out, because there's things that will cross over, and that's really important. So thank you very much, Courtney. Erlene.
Good morning. I'm Erlene George. I have a financial service business. Um, we cover all areas of finance, whether it's getting out of debt, planning for retirement, getting money for kids' college, home security, will, power of attorney, life insurance, just anything to do with people's finances. And we put together a complementary game plan to see, if there's any areas people might need help in. And I'm always looking for ways to be a better leader for my team. I try to lead by example, but there's always, so much you can learn. And I just try to be a better leader. So I'm excited to hear from you today.
Well, both of you so far have said something very, very important, is the ability to learn and grow. because we never stop.
Right.
And that's really, really important. That's a message that you'll hear in this hour from me probably a few times. Anastasia.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anastasia Jackson, and I'm the Kent County Regional Business Manager with the Division of Small Business, as well as the statewide coordinator for the Delaware Main Street program. Today is my first time joining Conversation and Coffee, just like Courtney's mentioned earlier. Normally, we are super busy in our schedules, but today I had an open window, and I was like, oh, yes, I'm definitely jumping on that today and find out who Robert, I don't know how to pronounce your last name is, but I want to find out.
My name is Robert Rescigno.
Rescigno, yes. Find out who you are and just kind of just be here and learning. I'm definitely looking to develop my leadership skills, and I feel like the best way to do that is being open to continuously learning new leadership skills. So thank you for having me on today.
Great. Lisa. I lost Lisa.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, yes.
Sorry about that. Hi, and I'm in the car, so I'm sorry I'm not on video. But anyway, I know Dr. Rescigno very well. I've known him for a long time, so it's going to be a great meeting, I'm sure. Anyway, so I'm on this because I've had Dr. Rescigno as an instructor, and he knows leadership inside and out, I think. And there's, like you said, always something new to learn. In particular, since COVID's happened, there's been a lot of change in the workplace. Things have shifted from everyone fearing to lose their job to now there's so many jobs and not enough people that major shift is, has a mind shift as well. A lot of people want to work at home, and that's not always an option. So it's kind of managing all these bumps along the way as we try to move out of post-COVID. And the other thing maybe you can touch on, Rob, if you want to, you don't have to, but AI, artificial intelligence, is really huge. And I think that's going to have an impact on leaders and their teams. So I look forward to a great meeting. Thank you.
And is this Lisa from Milford High School and from Deltec?
Yes, Lisa Straszowski. I'm sorry, I don't know what's on my Zoom because I think I have an old version. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm Lisa Straszowski from Delaware Tech, and I know Dr. Rescigno from Milford High School back a long time ago. So yeah, so he's been a good friend for a long time. So thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you. Bernice? Are you there, Bernice?
I'm so sorry. I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm calling from Christiana, Delaware, with Adecco, the best staffing agency in the world and the best staffing agency in the first state. So I'm here with the hopes of networking and learning as much as I possibly can. I like to think of myself as a sponge, just want to absorb as much knowledge as possible so that I can be an impactful and effective leader. And hopefully that lends a positive impact to my colleagues.
Great. Amy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Reardon. I am an outreach coordinator with Delaware Commute Solutions, which is a free commuter program under DART, which is Public Transportation for Delaware. And I thought it was interesting to join today because even though I'm not necessarily in a leadership position, I'm always looking for new information, ways to grow personally and also within my career. So I'm interested to see what you have to go over today.
Oh, great. Thank you. Denise?
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I apologize about my camera. It has broken on my computer, so we're getting that repaired. I'm Denise Burke. I am the Senior Administrator of Business Relations for the State Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. And I, too, like everybody, just can't get enough of leadership courses. I always say if you're leading 10 people, you lead them 10 different ways to make them successful. But you always need new tips. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Great. Jen Sutter?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jen Sutter. I'm the director of membership for the Secretary of Chamber.
Jen, you're breaking up a bit. I couldn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Oh, I said I'm Jen Sutter, director of membership for the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm just glad to speak in this places. I'm currently in the current LCD class, so let me read it for time on what I appreciate speaking up.
Your mics, we're having trouble. I'm having trouble hearing you with your mic. I heard
Something
director.
going on with your microphone.
The boss just said something, so that she gave.
Is that better?
Yes.
Oh, my mistake. I had the wrong thing clicked. Anyway, one more time. I'm Jen, the Director of Membership for the Central Delaware Chamber of Commerce. I'm currently in the LCD program, which is a leadership program, and I'm just always interested to learn new ideas and techniques. So I just thought I'd jump on today.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Going down my list here. We got Tracy.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Ingram. I'm the money coach for women. I love self-help and personal growth, and I don't have a team right now. But anytime I think that you level up, then you provide space for the people around you to level up as well. So I'm really excited to be here. And I'm also in Milford, and I'm a Wilmington University alum. I got my bachelor's from Wilmington after starting at Del Tech. So I really identify very strongly with what you were saying before we started about people being unemployable. And you guys provide an awesome opportunity for the people of Delaware.
Yeah, it's again, I don't know how many we're on, but we were talking about the pandemic, and I'm a member of a group called the Southern Regional Education Board. I'm appointed by the governor. It's a compact of 16 states. And they did a report in 2019 regarding automation and its effect. And the date was 2030. And the impact it would have on Delaware would be enormous, and the number of jobs that would be lost. And what happened since the pandemic is that accelerated that by 5 years. So now you're looking at 2025 and not 2030. And the scary word in the report was not unemployed, it was unemployable. And the impact that has on people and families, because then it's a cycle that the government would have to step in and help folks, which isn't a bad thing to help people. But the whole idea is that you want to make them, all of us, have jobs that we're proud of and that we can, sustain ourselves. But the thing is, it'll be the pandemic just accelerated the whole automation of jobs. And, as leaders, excuse me, I have one more person. Would you identify yourself? It just says CDCC.
Well, that's me and Dina. So Dina, I'll go first. I'm Cindy. You probably all have heard from me because I send out invites every month to come to coffee coaching. And I am a remote worker. I live in Michigan and I work for the chamber. I've been with them a little over 5 years. 5 years there and probably a year and a half working from home.
Great. And Dina?
I'm Dina. I work at the chamber also. And Dr. Rescigno and Dr. Vendetti were both part of cohort 16 at Wilmington University, and we got our doctorates together. And, I have to say that Rob was absolutely one of my best friends in the cohort. And I love his his perspective on leadership and the way he handles all of that. And I knew this was going to be really good. So I had to hop on here and, be able to, if Rob's going to talk about leadership, I want to hear it. So.
Oh, well, thank you. I actually, at the beginning, I said, I wanted to hear from everyone else because I could talk for 8 hours, and that's not good. And I just appreciate the opportunity. Leadership is I'm very passionate about it. I read something yesterday that your boss impacts 69% of your mental health. Think about that for a second.
Holy
Think
cow.
about the influence that you have in a position. You know, I'm very leadership is earned. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is not, I'm the boss. That's baloney. And I'll try not to curse, so I apologize. I'll be very careful about that. But the whole idea is that how do people follow you because they believe in you? And how do they get to believe in you? Is that they begin to trust you and they begin to feel good about you and you as a person and you as a leader, that you're going to take care of them. And one of the most interesting things I ever read was a definition of charisma by a guy named John Maxwell. And I encourage you, if you want to read a really short book that is incredibly powerful, it's 21 Essential Qualities of a Leader by John Maxwell. It's a little book. It's not the big book. It's a little book. And there's 21 qualities in it, which we will touch on, I'm sure, as you guys describe some of your situations to me. But the number two, and it's in alphabetical order. One time I was teaching, and someone said to me, because that was the book I had them all read, and they had to read only one quality a week or three a week because it would be overwhelming to me for them. And the second one was charisma, and everyone wanted to know why was charisma number two. I said because it follows character. It's just number two, right? So charisma to John Maxwell. Well, let me ask you guys. Everyone has this definition of charisma. So somebody want to raise their hand and tell us what they think that charisma is? Don't be shy. It's okay. No wrong answers here. Not getting graded. Wide open. What's charisma to you? What does that
To
mean?
me, I think it would be, I mean, I would describe a person as being very approachable and makes people feel at ease in their presence. Almost charming, you know. That's how I think of it.
Okay. Anastasia.
When someone makes you feel comfortable, like you can just go approachable and like they're very comfortable. That's
Good. Good. Somebody else?
Yeah, I think I would add an element of passion to that. You know, there's a passion that is in that person that's magnetic and it draws people in.
Well, you know, this is really interesting. I've been doing this for a long time, and this is the very first time that people didn't say giving a speech, being a politician, being that type of charismatic, because the truth is that's not what it is. It's what you guys are saying. I am so, my God, this is great. You know, because that is basically what Maxwell says is charisma is putting a 10 on everybody's head, making them feel valued, like you guys just shared, having passion, being approachable, all those things. And he tells a story about the two great prime ministers of England in the late 1800s. And one of them was a person who was quite, had a big ego, let's say, okay? And they were at a dinner party, and a woman was approaching this fellow with the big ego. And she has a conversation with him. And she walks away, and she goes to the second prime minister and says, has a conversation. And she leaves, and someone asks her about it. And she says, the first prime minister said, when you talk to him, it's obvious that he's the smartest person in the room. But when you talk to the second prime minister, he makes you feel like you are the smartest person in the room.
That's right.
And that's really important. It's really important. And it's not hard. See, that's the thing. You know, the thing about leadership is we sit here and we can talk about all the qualities of leadership that we believe a leader is, right? And then the response is, well, if it's that easy, why in the heck aren't you doing it? Because the reality is leadership is hard. Leadership is standing up for principles and values. And in Maxwell's book, the number one quality, even though it's alphabetical, it really is the number one quality. It's all about character. And character doesn't change. Character is like bedrock. And if you're a leader and your people can't figure that out and understand, you as a leader, your people should not be guessing. They should know what it is you stand for, what it is that you work for, what Dina said, and you guys said, what's your passion. They should know that. And if they aren't on board with that, they probably should go get another job. Because the thing is one of the most critical things in an organization is that the leader provides the vision, but is also the model for it. And if you're disconnected from that and you're not in alignment with an organization's mission, then you should just go find another job where you are. It's no problem, no harm, no foul. But the thing is, a leader is a model. A leader says how, a lot of times, funny thing, here's a funny story. So if you go to a meeting and, at MBNA, we had round tables. So nobody could ever be at the head of the table. That was symbolic. That's the way it was, right? And something you learn about when you are a leader and you go into a meeting, you should be the last to talk. Think about that for a second. Think about that. Why do you think that is?
So that everyone knows that they're heard. Because
exactly.
You can hear at the same time.
Yeah, because what happens is if you go in and you're the boss or leader, right? You go in and you say what you want. Well, guess what happens? That discourages other people from saying, because they don't want to dispute you. They don't want, but if they don't know how you think at that point, or they know kind of how you think, but if you don't say it, you're going to encourage that ability for people to talk. And that's how good things happen. If you're a leader and you think you got all the answers, go find another job. Because you don't. You don't. You know why? Because those other people are actually doing the job. Your job is to put this stuff together. Fancy, I can tell you fancy words, synthesize. You synthesize the ideas so that you can come to a better decision. So if you're living in your White Tower, or you're in a silo, or you think the world is peachy, no one's coming to tell you anything bad because you don't want to hear anything bad. All that stuff's detrimental to organization and chips away at your leadership. So when you have a meeting, think about yourselves, okay? Whether you're the leader of the meeting or you go into a meeting that has a leader, what's their behavior? And the best leaders are the ones that shut up. They initiate the meeting, they get it going, they're facilitating it, but they're not saying this is what we should be doing until they hear from all their people. Then together, you can formulate a plan. Do you have any experiences like that? I mean, where you've actually lived through that? I'm curious. Because you hit the first one out of the park. So let me see if we got some more stuff that I can pick away at. Meetings. Think about meetings. Think about leaders. What's the environment? Do you feel it's an environment of collegiality? Do you feel it's an environment that, again, I'm not, unfortunately, I think you're recording this, so I guess we have to be careful. Huh? Yes.
I am recording it.
So to give a hypothetical, how about a hypothetical? All right.
Gosh, Rob, it's hard to think of an example because there are so many times when things happen, but if you let, I am me, I am a big believer in we can do way more together than we can do on our own, right? And I have really good people around me because, those other brains all working together are way more effective than this one little doohickey of a brain that, whatever. And so if you don't show your cards right away and you let people go, the ideas that come up, if you've hired the right people, and I am proud to say we have the right people here right now. I can tell you that for sure. But if you let those ideas go and let people talk about, the things that they see because they're in a different aspect of it, as the leader, you're not in every piece of it. And if you need to hear from the people who are. And if they talk about it and they come up with something that they see out there on the front lines, and here's a solution, I would have never come up with that. So you end up with a whole bank of ideas rather than, one little thing that you think might be happening that probably even isn't. And there you go.
Well, so let's piggyback off that. Let's piggyback off a skill in leadership that to me is a deal breaker. It is whether or not you have the ability to listen. So there's a little thing, a little graphic I remember I saw many years ago. It had, one mouth and two ears. And the thing is, we tend to want to talk more than we want to listen. But what's being described here is the ability to listen. And for me, I was a very, very young high school principal, probably the youngest in the state at the time. My superintendent took a chance on me, and he was my greatest mentor. And he was probably one of the best listeners I ever saw in my life. He was amazing. And that's what I talked about the role models, about modeling, is that when you find someone who you really believe in and you say, God, that person's a leader, he or she is just tremendous. You watch them and you see the things they do. And you can't do everything. There's words in language is adopt and adapt. Adopt means you take everything and put it in. I'm much more of an adapter. So when I look at something, I say, how can that best fit in my organization, or how can that best fit to help me be better? Because I can't do it exactly like he did it. I've got to do within my own personality. That's really, really important. And there's certain things in listening. What happened was I had gone down to it was like a principal boot camp in South Carolina. The former superintendent of Milford went down there. He asked me to go down there, and I went through like 4 days of getting beat up through all about leadership situations, one-on-ones, all kinds of stuff. Pretty cool stuff. And I got back and they did this incredibly long report, and they said, Rob has tremendous potential, blah, 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 blah. But there's always a but, right? There's always a but. The but is he doesn't know how to listen. That's not his strong suit. So my superintendent, being the person he was a person who could hug me, but also kick me in the behind when I did something wrong. But I always knew he was doing it for me to make me better. I knew he loved me. That was the bottom line. It's like my second father. And he looked at me and he said, they're right. I said, what do you mean they're right? He said, you're too damn aggressive. You cut people off. You don't listen to people. It's your way or the highway. I was like getting hit with a brick in your head. So I walk out, and I thought about it. Another thing in leadership, really important thing, is reflection. You reflect on things that you learn, the feedback you get, and then you figure out solutions, whether it be a situation or whether it be your own self. If someone's being honest with you, that's really, really important, that they can come and tell you that kind of information. It may not be, the best, or they might not be very pleasant, but they're telling it to you because they want to make you better. So I left that meeting and I read, and at that time we had audio tapes. I listened to audio tapes about listening. I went to seminars, and I stood up in front of my faculty and I apologized to them and said that I am going to improve my listening. Now, of course, at that point I was brand new, so they just thought I was full of baloney, because they hadn't built that trust yet. But what I did was I read a lot of stuff, and I figured out that Here was my problem. My problem was I interrupted people. My problem was I listened with the intent to reply. You know what that means? That means that while you're talking to me, I'm not really listening to you. I'm figuring out what I'm going to say. Well, how in the world can you get to a solution if you're thinking about the solution before you even hear it? And so I literally, when people would come into the office, I would literally bite my tongue, no joke, bite my tongue, force myself to shut up, force myself to listen. And it was amazing the difference in the interaction. It was absolutely amazing. And the other thing is that human beings don't like silence. We don't like that. We like to be talking or hear whatever. We just don't like silence. When you go into a really difficult meeting and you're trying to find something out, if you sit at your desk and the other person's on the other side, because that's the way it would be normally in those kind of situations, your evaluation, whatever, not pleasant conferences, right? You sit there, you introduce yourselves, whatever you talk, you open it up, and then just pause. Just pause. And you will find how amazing it is, the things you will find out. Because people are uncomfortable with silence. It's really interesting. I mean, it's really interesting to try, See, I'm a real curious person, and I ask a lot of questions. I drive people crazy, but that's how I learn. I learn by asking questions, not because I'm trying to hurt anyone. I'm trying to educate myself and try to better understand something. One of my favorite things I like to say is help me understand. Help me understand, because I may not know. If I gave you my glasses, if Courtney and I changed our glasses, we'd see the world very differently. It's the same way in leadership. In leadership, it's about trying to see the perspective from the other person's eyes, because that's where they're coming from. They're not coming from where you are. They're coming from where they are. So if you're a leader, how are you going to help them? The only way you can help them is to understand how they see something. And guess what? You can't imagine, because you live in a certain world, in a certain environment. I used to say that to all the people I ever worked for. I said, you came from a home that had food, that had electricity, that had loving mother and father. They were there every night. You had dinner with them. Guess what? A lot of world ain't that way. So when they come to see you for help, you can't project your world onto theirs. It ain't going to work. You got to project their work, help understand where they're coming from so you can help them. Because if you don't do that, that's a major disconnect, because what happens then is you're doing what everybody else did, and they come to you for help. See, that's leadership. You talked about earlier, being approachable, being passionate, being, and I'm saying now, an outstanding listener. And sometimes it takes more time to do it that way, but at the end, you'll find a solution. So one time I was teaching and I had three guys, who's doctoral class in business. They just come back from, Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'm giving my little spiel about leadership, and I'm doing the same kind of thing we're doing here, kind of get to know each other. The three of them said, we don't want this mamsy-pamsy leadership stuff. We want to know the real stuff. I'm in Iraq, and I can be sitting in a restaurant, and some person can come in there, or a child or whatever, and pull a machine gun out and shoot up the place. So I stopped for a second, and I answered the question, but I also did something else. After I finished class, I called my friend General Brumall and said, what's going on here? Help me understand this. But what I did say was, I said, I don't have that experience. I can't speak to that. I said, because in leadership, there's a really important thing. It's called context. What's the context? So we could sit here and say, Dina could have a meeting and we're going to collaborate on an event or whatever we're going to do in the Central Delaware Chamber. That's different than being a leader in the military who's in a firefight than a fireman who's standing in front of a building saying, we're not going to sit here and let's, what are we going to do here? Let's collaborate. Well, the building's burnt. No, I don't think so. You're going to act. So context is really important. That's why people they get stuck. They say, well, Dr. Rescigno said this. No, Dr. Rescigno said this in this context. If there's an emergency, you got to deal with it. And as a leader, when you deal with an emergency, you got to be cool as a cucumber. Because why? Everybody's watching you. And if you're out of control, they're going to be out of control. So if the sky is falling and everything, you got to just be the rock. That's why I said leadership, what we talk about sounds easy, but it's really hard. Because there are times when you have to make a really difficult decision because it's right. And what happens is you tick people off because it's not what they wanted. But you know what? It's the right thing. And 6 months or a year later, they're going to say, oh, now I know why he did that or why she did that. But at the moment, people are saying they start to question you. What happens in leadership is after you start to build that trust up, Stephen Covey calls it the emotional bank account. You make deposits in an emotional bank account and you make withdrawals. Well, the best leaders and in best relationships have a lot in that emotional bank account that they can pull from. They can make withdrawals. So when you get to that point of having a really strong emotional bank account, then people trust you. And they'll say, and they've said it to me, I don't know why Rob is doing this now, but I trust him. And then 4, 5, 6 months later, then the picture happens. And they say, oh, now I know why. And when I first became principal, teachers would go storming out of my office at that point, we had secretaries, not admins. And they just start screaming about me and be all upset. And she would say to them, don't you understand? Rob is here for the students. That's who he is here for. And when you figure that out, you'll be a much happier person. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. I mean, but that took time. See, there's I always say, I love to create examples and analogies. So if you think about saran wrap, right? And there's this wall of saran wrap in front of you. A lot of times people stop. The trick is to know it's saran wrap and you can poke your finger right through it and go on to the next thing. But a lot of times people did just stop because they say, you know why? Let me ask you a question. You guys are good. You're really listening. I really appreciate you. Very engaged. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to ask you. I hope you can respond to this one because it's not controversial. What is the difference between a manager and a leader? Now, you need both of them. They're both real important. But what's the difference in your own mind? Manager, leader.
I feel like a manager is more task focused, where a leader is more people focused.
Anybody? That's a great answer. Anybody want to add to that? You can go deeper, but anything else in your own? Again, we want to share. Okay, one answer is, what's your perspective on that? What is a manager versus a leader?
I would say a leader. Oh, sorry, Tracy. I would say a leader listens more. Mm-hmm. Whereas, as Anastasia said, a manager, they're coming to you, they're giving you what you need to do, and they're telling you, hey, this needs to be done. Where a leader's going to take your input.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you, Amy. Anyone else?
I would agree with that, but I think also the leader always brings things
who's
back.
Talking? I don't see you.
It's Tracy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think the leader holds the vision,
mm-hmm.
the passion, the purpose.
Okay. These are all fine. Anybody else?
Good morning. It's Bernice again with the Deco. I mean, obviously the manager is responsible for the day-to-day, the processes. Mm-hmm. But I think I've always thought that a leader, at least the great ones anyway, they have a way of inspiring others to be great. They have a way of inspiring others to buy into whatever the mission is. They have a way of making us all rise to the occasion. That's how I see great leaders.
Well, it's interesting. You know, at the outset, I can't remember when you joined, but that was one of the first things I asked was, what did you think is the definition of charisma? And that's a strong quality. And the other thing about leadership is, the bottom line is, you should be developing those other people. That's the big enchilada, because we're all not going to be around forever. And the thing is, you're going to hand this off. And by modeling, by teaching, by showing, by example, all those things make a huge difference in how people do things. Because there's a great line. There's a fellow I met years ago at Harvard. His name was Jeffrey Howard, and he talked about, his line was, "You can't be what you can't see." Think about that for a second. You can't be what you can't see, and that's all about modeling. It's all what you guys are saying is that, you know, that's what a leader is. You know, you can't, you know, I'll get a little nerdy on you. There's a thing called a knowledge taxonomy. It's got 4 layers, right? It's the what, it's the how, right? The what and the how. That's the manager zone, the what and the how. Managers operate from a manual. Managers, and again, you've got to have good managers. I'm not saying that's bad. No. You have to have excellent managers. They do, like you said, they do the day-to-day operations. They make sure that the trains are on time, all that kind of stuff, right? Or the buses. And then there's this other stuff. There's the why and the when. So you got the what and the how. So in an organization, when you look at this knowledge taxonomy, the people who can do the why and the when get paid more money. Because why? They're synthesizing the what and the how, and they're giving the vision, and they're giving the direction. They're relying on those great managers too to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, it's determining why you're going to do something and the when. And the when is much more, as I said earlier, it's the context of something. Think about a time in your careers where the leadership decided, we're going to launch this thing. We're going to do this thing, right? Unfortunately, it wasn't the right timing, or the explanation of the why wasn't clear, and it fails. So I'm a person who really believes, you know, failure is just a moment in time. The only thing to me that's terminal is when we leave this earth. Everything else can be fixed. So if you're doing a project and all of a sudden something comes off the rails, okay, let's figure out how to get it back on the rails. If it's good and we all agree it's good and we all know it's good, we've studied it, we know that this is the right thing to do, we got all the why straightened out, we understand all that stuff, we understand the risk, all those things. If this is important, we can fix that. Because what happens, the difference between, and I'm going to be very stereotypical here, okay, between a leader and a manager might say, no, let's stop, this is not going to work, whatever. And then the leader talks to the manager and they talk it through and they say, well, what if we can do this? What do you think about this? Because that person is looking at the here and now. They're not looking 3 years, 5 years, next year. They're looking at the here and now and saying, this ain't working right now. No, let's try to figure it out. How can we make it work? And then you get the thing on the line. And then I use an example of you ever fill up like a sandwich bag or a Glad bag, and you keep filling it with water. Well, eventually it's going to pop a leak. That's how it's going to go. Now you can just throw it in the sink and say, let the water run out, it's over. Or you can go find a patch and patch it up. And now you're good to go again. And that's the same way in life. And that's where leaders have to say, a lot of times make a hard decision. Always use your people. Remember, you've got to use your people because you can't make a decision in a vacuum. You have to truly understand the problem, because what you as a leader can do is you can connect all the dots. I was talking to the state, all the superintendents in October about this. It's the challenge of, even though we're a small state, we're not good at connecting the dots, and we're not good at leveraging resources. So if one department is doing something and another one's doing something else, we should be working together, because at the end of the day, the outcome's going to be the same. Why are we going on different paths? Why are we not talking to each other? Why are we not figuring stuff out together? That's a big deal. A big deal. Someone want to chip in?
Yeah, I do. I want to chip in on that. I'll give you a really good example of that in the state of Delaware right now. There are a gazillion entities working on workforce and the lack of workforce. And the truth of the matter is, what we need is for the governor or somebody to appoint a workforce czar who says, okay, XYZ person over here, and this group over here, and this group over here, everybody come together. Let's pool the resources and let's all talk together about how we're going to fix the issue with the workforce. Because until we do that, we've got a lot of people working in silos, and they can only do so much. If we banded together, it's the same problem. Everybody's got the same problem. Not too many jobs, not enough workers. And if we could find somebody to bring that group together, I really think we'd push the needle forward. I'll step off my soapbox.
No, I want you to know that I'm on that same soapbox in that particular area. And what I do is I define it as, it's like doing a quilt. You got all this wonderful material on the floor, but nobody's putting the quilt together. Everybody's doing something good. I did investigate this because I'm at the Southern Regional Education Board, the group I'm talking about. They work with 16 states. We're one of them. They have gone to Florida, Texas, Georgia, who are members, Kentucky, and have put together a system of workforce development that starts in the 8th grade. 8th grade, high school, college, community college, places like zip code and code differently, those types of entities, and the employers, and created it. They have the receipts, and we belong to them. And the good news is the Secretary of Education, Mark Holodick, is now on board with me, and they invited us to be part of a Gates grant to look at exactly the challenges that Dina has talked about. Because when I investigated it, I found that there was over a dozen entities working on workforce development. And every time I went to one, I uncovered another one.
And if you go to one and you say, have you heard about so-and-so who's doing blah, 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 they haven't. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And they're all doing good work, but they don't even talk to each other.
Florida has 24 workforce development boards. They meet every Friday to discuss what's going on. And SREB was the convener. They did the same thing in Georgia. They did the same thing in Kentucky, Texas, North Carolina. And the challenge is you got to let go. That's it. And what they can do is they can be the third party, because sometimes you need a third party. But it's like if your mother tells you something, or your father, you don't listen. Same kind of thing. You get it from someone else, and all of a sudden it's the right thing, right? And again, that's part of leadership, is being open and flexible and adaptive, because the world is constantly changing. And what happens is people in general, if you say change, everybody thinks it's the same. Well, change is not the same. There's different kinds of change. So if you want to go change the copier machine paper and put new paper, that's pretty simple change. But this kind of change that leaders do, that Dean is talking about, is referred to as second order change. That's changing how we used to do things. That's changing how we think of things, because we've done them so much this way for so long. One story, when I was at MBNA and I got there, I was there for about less than a year. And somebody figured out that I knew a lot about change management. So I got put on this little group. It was like 5 of us. And what was going on was we were going from a DOS system with those keys on the top to a PC-based system in customer satisfaction. And we were going to pick the best representatives to do it. It was our daytime folks. They'd been there the longest. They were the most veteran. And so we used them to pilot this PC-based system. Well, the idea was the PC-based system was going to save the company millions and millions of dollars because the call would go quicker. So instead of saying it was going to be 3.5 minutes in this DOS system, use the PC-based, we're going to get it to 2 minutes and 25 seconds, save millions and millions of dollars. So we initiate the change. Guess what happened? The time on the call went up. Well, the senior people went nuts. They went crazy. So our little group got together. And at the time, this research wasn't around. The second order change research wasn't around. We said, why don't we go and sit with the people on the phone and see what they're doing? Rather than go over there and start screaming at them, saying, what's wrong with you? Why are you, blah, blah, you know. So we did that. And here's what we discovered. MBNA's culture was over every doorway at MBNA, there were little brass letters. It said, think of yourself as a customer. On our checks, when actually you had paper checks, it would say brought to you by the customer. That was the environment. And these people were veterans. They'd been there 10, 12, 15 years of that culture. When they finished the call, they clicked the PC and gave the person credit. But you know what else they did? They toggled into the old system, had the ability to toggle into the old system to see if the credit had been credited. They didn't trust the system. So instead of screaming at them, it was all about, they were concerned about the customer getting the credit. They didn't trust the PC-based system. So when we discovered that, what did we do? We gave them more education. We thanked them for being so conscientious. And after that, but that was a key moment. That was a moment of truth. Because if we had gone in there and started screaming at them and made them feel like less valued, the charisma question, again, we've gone full circle, right? If we made them feel less valued, they'd say, I don't want to be here anymore. And then that would follow and people would leave because what's going on here? But it was that, and what the research says is when you're going through a change like that, the most important thing is supporting the people engaged in the change, supporting them, reassuring them, because now you're asking them to do something they had never done before or do it differently than they've been doing it. That's a big change. So you as a leader have to be there to support them. Help, again, that same line, help me understand, tell me what's going on. And then you have success because things fail because we don't do that. Because and what happens then? The poorer leaders, I don't even call them leaders, poorer people in authority, will blame the people who are doing the change. And that isn't the way it is. It's all about leadership. Said it earlier. It's about Bernice said about the vision, inspiring direction, the mission. Dina said that about the mission, right? That's what it's about. And again, it's funny. People say it's not rocket science, but it's hard because sometimes you have to stand up for what's right. And that is uncomfortable. But the thing is, you know what? You bust through that cellophane and you get on the other side and you're fine. And it's that kind of thinking that we have to find when you leave here. Usually I do this, but we don't have time. Think about somebody who you respect and why you respect them as a leader. What is it? What are the things that they do that demonstrate that they're a leader? Strong character, listening, never stop learning, right? Charisma, all the things that make what a leader is, building trust, relationships, all those things are leadership qualities. What does that person have that make you say to yourself, God, I want to be more like that? That's what I want to be. I want to be more like that. So before we end, do you have any other questions of me? Put me on the spot, make me feel uncomfortable. It's fine. Anything you heard, you said, man, it's a bunch of BS. Anything, that's fine.
No, Rob, I could just add a little quick something with the thing about leadership being hard and making hard decisions. I heard somebody talk one time about something that they called the 33-65 principle. And that is that if you make a hard decision and people are going, there's going to be people that don't like it. Okay. And so you're going to get some blowback and there's going to be stomping around and you're the worst leader ever and blah, blah, blah. And the studies are showing that that kind of thing lasts for about 30 days. So you can put up with it for about 30 days.
Yep.
If you don't make the hard decision, 365 days from now, you're going to find yourself wishing you had, and now the situation's going to be worse. Think about if you don't make the decision.
Exactly. That's what
what's it going to look like 365 days from now? So the 30 days seems like nothing. So
always remember, the leader should have the most knowledge and the most information to make a decision. So you gotta overturn all those rocks because nobody else is doing that. So you have the most information to make the best decision that's limiting the risk. Those folks don't have that. So they're looking at, again, through their lens, not yours. So always remember that. And the other thing too is nothing is in stone. Most times, some things are. Obviously, if you're in an emergency room in a hospital, yeah, you're making life and death decisions. You better make the damn right decision. But for the majority of us, that's not the case. We can adjust. We can recalibrate. We can do that. And in a situation, an emergency room, what do they have? They have very, very strict protocols so that that doesn't happen. That limits it. But in many cases, we don't live in that world. But that's that context. That's the context of that emergency room, like I said earlier, like the battlefield. Those are all different kinds of things. The firemen, that's different. They have different context of what they do. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to just share and listen to your ideas as well. And it's been a wonderful time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is very good.
Thanks, Rob. You always have good stuff to say. You're the bomb.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It was nice to see all you guys today.
Good to see you.
Thanks, everybody. And Cindy, I have to say, go blue. Fantastic game.
Thank you. All right. Wow, that wasn't bad.
That was good.
It was great.
Interesting.
Recording.
You should try to get him again. I mean, he